现场的贵宾朋友，大家早安，大家好，欢迎您来到2018智慧连结数位应用论坛。网际网路与数位科技的发展，驱使着通讯传播产业的数位转型，并且随着通讯传播服务的普及，促进各种不同领域的产业相关的连结，创造出崭新的商业模式。今天我们以智慧连结数位应用为题，邀请在场的产官学研各界的专家，探讨交流智慧连结所带来的新思维，从全球科技与政策趋势的角度，积极的破坏社会、产业、法律与经济所将面临的挑战与机会，期待着掌握台湾数位经济转型的契机，看见下一个人与数位的连结点。在我们活动的一开始，就让我们邀请国家通讯传播委员会主委詹廷一詹主委为我们开场引言，掌声欢迎詹主委。
我们行政院科技汇报，我们蔡志宏蔡执秘，还有我们各位与会的学界、业界，还有政府机构以及通讯传播产业界的老朋友、新朋友们，大家早，大家好。首先代表通传会欢迎各位来出席我们今天的这个2018智慧连结数位应用的这个论坛。Ladies and gentlemen.Distinguished speakers, panelists, and guests, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to the Together We Connect Forum. The next wave of digital transformation is happening. With revolutionary technologies such as 5G, IoT, and AI, etc., we have now truly entered into the new era of intelligent connectivity. We are extremely grateful for having today's keynote speakers, Renee and Randy, and other panelists, experts who will join the panel discussions. I'm confident they will provide us with much valuable insights and help us unlock the enormous potential enabled by intelligent connectivity. Please allow me to use Mandarin. Okay. 在过去的20几年，我想在座各位关心我们通讯传播产业发展的产官学研的各界的朋友们，都非常清楚的看到，我们已经逐步的历经汇流的时代，今天来到了 post convergence， 也就是后数位汇流的时代。那么随着这个后数位汇流时代的来临，其实带动的就是所谓的数位转换digital transformation。这个 digital transformation 所发生的场域，不论是政府的施政、产业的发展以及个人的生活，其实都带来了翻天覆地的变化。那么NCC 非常重要的任务就是在这个过程当中，推进跟不断的提高所谓的宽频社会传输的品质，以及健全这样子的一个宽频社会的环境。所以在这个过程当中，越来越多的创新应用服务跟可能的这个内容，都会在整个宽频社会所建构的基础环境之上发生，那这样新的一个时代，跟我们面对到新的环境，其实它是一个跨国境、跨产业，然后这个跨平台，这么多的挑战跟机会，我们怎么来因应呢？我想最重要的就是我们 mindset 的转换那么世界经济论坛，也就是 WEF， 在2015年，它就已经提出了所谓的 Digital Transformation Initiative， 也就是所谓的数位转换的倡议。那在这个倡议当中，其实它是非常强烈的呼吁各界要在数位化的浪潮中，必须要及时能够掌握这样的一个趋势，才能够获得数位红利。而且 WEF 认为，随着科技的发展，更先进的新兴技术会以创新的方式相互连结，而这样相互连结产生的综效，会远胜于单独使用其基础环境的这样的一个效益。比如说像我们行动的装置，再结合云端的运算，甚至到现在 Edge Computing 等等，还有各种不同的 sensor 的这个技术，还有互联网 IoT 交互的运用的情境之下所产生的价值。 正以指数的方式来成长，甚至 WEF 预估到这个2020年数位转换所带来的新的商业模式会达到未来的这个商业模式的30%以上。那另外还有一个很重要的组织，就是我们的这个OECD， 也就是经济合作发展组织，它在2017年所提出来的这个确保数位转换所带来的成长跟福祉 ，Going Digital, Making the Transformation Work for Growth and Well-being。他在这个报告里头其实也提到就说目前许多的国家政策还停留在一个什么样的状况，也就是技术已经到4.0、5.0，但是政策可能还在1.0、2.0。好，这也就是我们为什么要极其努力，而且要重中之重必须要把整个环境跟配套的这个同时也要来进行这个数位转换。所以科技带来的利益必须要以前瞻的视角，还要统合政府的各个部门，要能够 leverage 数位科技所带来的利益，才能够让这个数位转换能够顺利的成功。那我想NCC 我们来到这个单位跟大家相处也已经2年多的时间，而且我们在过去长时间，我们 NCC 的同仁也一直非常致力在这个基础环境跟宽频社会的建构。那在这样的一个过程当中，我们 NCC 扮演的角色也必须要能够精进跟提升那在这个过程当中，我们与时俱进，其实就非常充分的掌握了宽频社会所带来的这个应该要具有的这个思维的转换。所以我们在这个治理的层次，不断的在回应跟这个协同各部会来关照所谓的这个 governance 的议题，这是一个多元层次的问题那尤其是数位基础环境的建构，已经不是只有单纯的部件了。我也一直不断的跟各位在沟通一个观念，也就是说，我们的这个 infrastructure 已经不是只有单纯的连接，必须要能够是更智慧的连接。这里面更智慧的连接，就是因为有很多 ICT 的技术可以在上面去有很好的发展，同时变成一个大平台，能够让各式各样的应用创新、各式各样的技术都能够在上面有所发挥。所以 NCC 的角色也必须要转换它不是只有单纯的这个 regulator， 还必须更进一步是以宽频社会来驱动数位经济的典范转移。我们是一个 facilitator， 也是一个 enabler。那我想今天2018的这个智慧连结数位应用的论坛，其实我们就是非常希望能够以这个未来5G、AI、IoT 等等技术所汇聚的这个 intelligent connectivity 的观点，从政府的政策的创新思维，还有产业商业模式的改变，以及应用服务内容的创新、民众数位生活便利性的提升等各个面向来探讨邀请知名的专家，还有我们实际在第一线的这个业者、产业的先进，能够一起跟我们大家来探讨蜕变的过程当中，我们所需要面对到的挑战以及机会。那么今天早上、上午的场的这个智慧连结为主轴，我们特别邀请到我们瑞典 Ericsson 的这个政府与产业的关系处的总监 Renee Summer， 非常好的朋友，他特别从瑞典飞过来。那么另外还有我们 IDC 亚太区物联网研究总监 Randy Roberts， 那他们2位分别要分享这个下一波数位转换以及智慧连结引领新格局2项的这个专题演讲。同时在关键对谈，我们也邀请到我们陈一宁教授，也是我们前委员，他卸任之后出国一趟，气色非常好。How I envy you， OK， 好。然后在这个关键对谈的时候，我们2位与谈人主讲人会参与，同时也有我们这个中华电信的这个马副总，还有我们 GSMA 的这个港澳台战略合作总经理我们 William 蔡，还有这个相关的产业先进会加入语谈那这个部分是就我们的这个智慧连结来做探讨。那么下午场我们会进一步延伸到智慧连结密切相关的各种创新应用的服务，我们会有这个企业中心的这个高科技媒体及电信产业负责人陈明辉陈先生，然后来发表一个关键报告数位生活跟产业应用，让我们更了解目前我们所处的这个 scenario， 协助我们了解数位生活产业整体的轮廓。另外我们邀请 Facebook 台湾及香港总经理的于慧瑜总经理，还有 Line 台湾我们 Roger 陈立人陈总经理，还有 HBO Asia Yasmin 我们市场销售暨营运行销长郭彦平，还有我们 应该也是大家非常熟悉的我们达文西各自机构科技法律事务所的我们Simon叶其新叶所长，分别从社群、从视讯以及从资料经济等面向来进行深度的探讨。然后再来的语谈，我们会由我们郭文忠郭委员来主持，同时再邀请我们 HTC 的这个虚拟实境的产品策略副总包永哲包总经理，应该是 Raymond 吧哈，一起来加入对谈，来探讨数位应用如何驱动台湾未来的无限可能。最后，我要再次的感谢今天的论坛，其实是非常多人的努力的这个呈现哦。那要特别感谢2位远道来的这个贵宾，还有我们很多的这个主讲跟语坛人。那么我预祝今天大会顺利成功，各位在现场都能够收获满满，同时我们一起在未来共同迎向数位转换的挑战，还有更大的机会。以上，谢谢。
谢谢主委的致辞，我们请主委入座，谢谢。接下来我们要邀请行政院科技汇报办公室执行秘书蔡志宏蔡执秘为我们致辞，我们有请致辞贵宾。
詹主委，我们来自国外远道的贵宾Rainy Summer and Randy Robert, thank you for coming for a long way. 我还有我们国内的产业界的先进，我们学界的先进朋友老朋友新朋友们，大家早。很高兴来到今天的智慧连结数位应用论坛在行政院的科技汇报办公室，我任职的这个办公室，我们在行政院长期推动DG Plus 方案，也就是数位国家创新经济方案。这个方案呢，算是跟我们今天的大会最有关联的一个方案，而且经由这个数位国家创新经济方案，我们倡议的数位的转型、数位的经济，也间接带动5+2产业创新。那很简单解释一下数位国家创新经济方案的内涵。事实上，我们是希望经由国家在数位政府、基础建设、人才培育、科技，以及相关的产业创新的一起的建构，让我们国家的几个重要的目标，例如数位经济的产值，或者国民生活的日常的应用，以及我们基础建设的宽频化，都能够得到长足的进展。比方说，我们的目标是让我们的数位经济的产值，从2016年的3.3兆新台币，到2025年能够成长到6.5兆，相当于我们的 GDP 里面的数位经济的产值，从大约20% 成长到将近30%。这样的一个目标，不是只靠单纯的原本的在 IT 或者是网络界本身产值的成长来达成。这个数位经济的这个产值成长，事实上是让网络连接的力量以及资料运用的效益扩散到我们相关的各行各业。也就是说，将来我们各个原来的传统产业或者是商业体系，经由数位化、网络化以及智慧化，而能够让它的产值得到成长，让它的商业模式获得转型。事实上，这样的转型的意涵，事实上也涵盖到我们今天与会的各界贵宾，你们所在的行业，包括媒体，包括传输包括我们现在各种的资料的分析。那我们在过去一段时间，5+2产业里面已经努力看到几个领域有比较明显的成绩，比方说在智慧机械领域。智慧机械里面的智慧制造已经开始大量运用数位化跟智慧的功能来提升它们的产值跟相关的品质。绿能科技开始运用智慧化的控制。我们在智慧城市里面，智慧城乡计划已经推动的城市里面的 IoT 以及各式各样的自动化的这个应用在智慧交通。应用在智慧医疗等等。那在行政院今年年初通过了 台湾 AI 行动计划之后，我们更将 AI 跟相关的资料经济的运用来做整合啊。我们提出来的口号是 AI 产业化以及产业 AI 化啊。我想这个部分也会为今天的智慧连结数位应用的论坛的讨论，我们增加了一些可以整合的空间，跟大家愿意倡议的方向。那在未来展望未来，我想 IoT 的起步才是刚刚开始，我们即将来临的5G， 以及已经在我们云端已经搬迁了很多应用的这样的云端的平台，我相信很快的未来我们会看到他们彼此之间的深度的结合。5G 会带来 Edge Computing、Edge 跟 Cloud 跟 AI 将来会整合在一起，可能就会发生在各位的手机啊，你们下一波的手机可能又有 AI 又有5G 的功能啊，当然也会跟各式各样的智慧应用来连接。那相信今天的智慧连结数位应用论坛会有很丰硕的成果，那也期待各位嘉宾有美好的一天。好，谢谢大家。
谢谢执秘，我们请蔡执秘留步在舞台上啊。我们请执秘往我们舞台中央的位置，就为我们要邀请今天的与会贵宾以及讲者一同上台。让我们再一次有请国家通讯传播委员会主委詹婷仪詹主委再一次来到舞台上。And let's welcome Director of Government and Industry Relations at Ericsson Group, Mr. Renee Summer. And let's welcome Research Director, IoT and Telco for IDC Market Research Asia Pacific, Mr. Randy Roberts. 还有台湾宽屏董事长于宗义于董事长，中华电信业务执行副总经理马宏灿。Head of Strategic Engagement Hong Kong, Taiwan, Macau, GSMA 谢志德，以及我们政治大学传播学院教授陈义宁。我们有请以上几位贵宾来到舞台上哦，为今天智慧连结数位应用论坛留下美好的画面。让我们看向前方的摄影师。So please look straight forward to our photographer. So give us a big smile. 为今天的智慧连结数位应用论坛留下美好的画面，给我们一个美好灿烂的微笑。好，再让我们看向前方的摄影师。好，接下来我们要邀请我们的国家通讯传播委员会的委员一同上台合影哦。让我们有请郭文忠郭委员、陈耀祥委员、邓维忠委员，我们有请3位委员一起来到我们的舞台上。让我们2位在我们舞台的右手边，然后1位在我们舞台的左手边。好，让我们看向前方的摄影师。Once again, please look straight forward to our photographer. 让我们预祝今天智慧连结数位应用论坛会顺利圆满成功，也会让大家收获满满。谢谢 ，Thank you very much。谢谢我们台上的贵宾。So, let's please, Mr. Renee Summer, please remain on the stage. Yes, please. 接下来呢，我们的第一场专题演讲，下一波数位转换，我们要热情的掌声来欢迎瑞典爱立信政府与产业关系处总监 Mr. Renee Summer give us his keynote speech.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Chairwoman, for inviting Ericsson to this important event. I hope to give you some new, fresh ideas about how we at Ericsson think about digital transformation. Today, I have prepared a presentation with a little bit of a bold statement, really saying you haven't seen nothing yet. So all the great things the professor was mentioning earlier before me, the view that we take at Ericsson is that it will only get faster and more disruptive and more innovative going forward. So I hope that this presentation will give you some of fresh ideas, how to think about digital transformation and how the digital transformation we have witnessed so far will be actually different from the next wave of digital transformation that we foresee at Ericsson. And maybe I should start with showing you this picture that actually comes from the Institute of the Future and was used at a very early stage of one of the first broadband plans commissioned by the FCC in the United States. And what I'm trying to say with this picture is that at the pace of technology continues to grow faster and faster. And of course, different parts of society have different capacities to respond to this technological pace of change. And of course, looking at the gap between what technology can do and how quickly public policy and government administration can change with the technology is, of course, one of the areas where areas for digital transformation open up for opportunities. But also, if you look at it from conventional businesses who have historically not been born digital, but can close the gap with these technologies, and for example, then the startups, those who are born digital that can much quicker respond to changes because they have not a legacy with them to consider. So one important consideration is, of course, to think about this gap, and I will try to address that a little bit later in the presentation. Also, the reason, of course, how can we say that technology is continuously moving faster and faster? And of course, there are a number of technologies, general purpose technologies, mobility, cloud, 5G, IoT, but also other complementary technologies like AI, analytics, smart materials that all create these new possibilities. And the way that we look at this in Ericsson is really that there are three main consequences. One is about the exponential growth of performance. So the performance of computing is continuously growing and the price for computing is going down. With IoT and 5G, we see an increased reach of technology to even more dispersed places, into more areas before, for example, comparing with fixed technologies. And these different technologies also creating, of course, new possibilities for new business models, new ways of organizing industries, new ways of organizing governments, of course, with possibilities to improve efficiency, come with new services and productivity gains. So if we look at that, what we have seen so far then, this is what most people maybe think of when you talk about the first wave of digitization. And this is something which most of us take already for granted. And we see a number of sectors and successful digital startups who have become enormously big and successful companies. And of course, the question is, what's the next wave? What is coming after this? And maybe as a first reflection I would like to offer is that maybe we need to think of moving away from the concept of infrastructure to infrastructure. And this is not just a play with words, but really there are some fundamental differences if we look at how we have thought of infrastructure in terms of mobile technology or broadband, but also we talk about social networks and cloud, and increasingly how the technologies change the infrastructure, which makes it, like we use the word today, intelligent connectivity, which is not only about connecting people, but also using those connections in a smarter way with other different capabilities. And there are some technologies mentioned here that if you marry these two different technologies and strive to maximize the benefits and opportunities, actually a new form of infrastructure is created. Maybe a reflection here from a global perspective would be that if you look at, for example, 2G, nobody talks about 2G today, but what 2G and GSM did actually, it created mobile voice service more prevalent globally than toothbrushing. So there are more people who use the mobile phone than they brush teeth every day. And with 3G, connecting people to internet is trying to do the same thing, to make more internet users than toothbrush users. And with 5G and this informational infrastructure, what we are trying to do is to connect and create smart computing capability available for everyone and also everything. So this change is of enormous scale. And of course, in that context, IoT is a very important development from a pure connectivity point of view. This is Ericsson's expectation of the reach of IoT connectivity. And my point now maybe is the absolute numbers here. They are big. But fundamentally, what IoT brings to the equation is to take the toothbrushing to every connected device where it makes sense to connect. So what does this mean from an opportunity point of view? And if we look at some of the large range of use cases that we foresee, of course, if we just look at it from a point of view of the reach of the network, so if you look at wide coverage or local coverage, or in terms of data intensity, we see a number of use cases, and Professor Tan was talking about the industrial opportunities. And of course, this is a prerequisite. Having the connectivity out there in different contexts is an essential starting point. If you don't have that, of course, we will not have the connection to things that we can make smart, and we can use the data and optimize our resources based on that. So that is, of course, one important development. But also, of course, the issue of 5G comes into play as well. I mean, IoT is, of course, happening already outside 3GPP technologies. It is also happening with 4G. So in that sense, IoT is a trend and a development which is happening in parallel. But I think when it comes to 5G, it's important to really recognize some key differences. So if we think of 1G, 2G, 3G, and 4G, these are generations of mobile infrastructure technologies who are built for connecting humans, and hence the metaphor of the toothbrush. Of course, with 3G, we introduced mobile broadband, and mobile broadband was used to connect also things. But from an architectural point of view, the systems were always built for connecting humans. 5G is built for connecting things and machines. It's an architectural difference between how 5G is built versus the previous generations. Yes, at the bottom you can see we will still offer consumer services in 5G, mobile broadband, the things we know of today, and that is more of the same. That's not really the big change here. It is important, it has a lot of commercial value, but the new things are actually at the top, to the right and left, where the architecture of 5G is either built for critical machine type communication, where performance of the network is of absolute criticality, because it will have to support the operations of those businesses who will connect to it. It will be their organizational requirements that need to be fulfilled where the technology makes a difference. And of course, when we look at the massive type of machine communication, then typical devices that are out there to measure or send information, where maybe the quantity of data is not the importance in terms of network performance or the speed, but the sheer volume of reaching out to different geographical scope, and also with a much greater capacity and ability to connect different volumes of data. So from some perspective, of course, 5G is happening already now in 4G, and those are the necessary changes happening in the network. So software-defined networking, network slicing, these are critical changes that are taking place already now. From our perspective as a technology company, we've been already supplying 5G-ready hardware since 2015. So those operators in the market who have been using Ericsson hardware actually have already hardware in place, installed, that can be used to deploy 5G. But 5G is not only about the technology that companies like us try to push, but there are also some important economic arguments. So looking at the bottom of the more of the same, we expect that traffic in mobile networks between 2016 and 2023 will increase with factor 8. However, operators' revenues will not. So increased efficiency, decreased production cost of bits is of essence. 5G produce 1 gigabit at 1/10 of the cost of 4G. So there's an enormous productivity and efficiency gain to be made. Just make the existing business case more economically viable to deal with the capacity growth. But of course, 5G is also aimed at these upper two business cases, and their discussions around national-wide deployments is not really a relevant benchmark. Many of the right-hand side cases will not require national coverage, at least not from beginning. There might be so that national coverage will be achieved later, but it will be not only driven by those critical deployments. So I think it's important to understand the different complements that this technology is providing. And finally, I would also like to say that 5G is also more secure than 4G from a pure security point of view. So for instance, compared to 4G, encryption of IMSI numbers, so the problem of fake base station, or someone captures your mobile phone and takes over control, this is a step change in 5G where security will be improved. Other elements like encrypting traffic between the mobile phone or the device and the base station will be encrypted in 5G, which is not the case in 4G. So these are two examples among several ones where 5G will also improve security. So this is really maybe the simplest way of portraying then the value that 5G brings, these four quadrants. So I'm speaking about more of the same, more cost-efficient delivery, but also I would like to mention that, like for example, United States, 5G is used as an alternative to fiber. So the early launches in the United States are really about substituting investments from fiber to 5G, and for certain geographies and let's say deployment scenarios for given the profile of the community, deploying 5G makes more sense from an economic point of view. So this is not adding to the total investment, it replaces investments. But of course, the top one to there are genuine new business and value drivers, and this is maybe more interesting for the discussion going forward. So that's what I will focus my presentation. Together with Arthur D. Little, we have conducted a number of research projects from a business point of view to try to understand how IoT and 5G can create new value for operators. And these are the scenarios that we have been looking at, not only from a commercial point of view, but also from the point of view what is challenging to deploy from business model perspective, but also from a technology point of view. So what you see there is a set of different capabilities and industrial opportunities where we think that operators can start think about how to think of the technology. So as of mid this year, June 2018, there are 148 operators in 66 countries who are at various stages piloting 5G. This is information that became public at the GSMA, the Global Supply Association, yesterday. We have also this year expecting 10 launches of 5G and 17 commercial launches in 2019. So we see already this year and next year a number of operators around the world trying to figure out how they can benefit from these opportunities in this different industrial context. Again, this doesn't mean that we are talking about national-wide coverage launches from day one, but different pilots and tests and trials. So just to keep that in mind, 154 operators in 66 countries. Of course, the discussion about how a technology can change a society is hard to envision at every inflection point. So maybe a historical reference how technology proliferates and how it starts and ends might be a good way of reminding ourselves. And this picture really shows you on your left-hand side the first test of a mobile phone in Sweden. And the right-hand side shows you self-driving cars in 2017. So what you see on the left-hand side is today more prevalent than toothbrushing. And what you could do there, you could make one phone call and then the battery was dead. So you had to have someone coming with you to actually tow the car away. There was no SMS, no ringtones, no mobile internet, no YouTube, no positioning, nothing. Just a simple call that killed a whole car battery. And today, you know yourself how prevalent mobile communication is from a personal communication point of view. Well, bringing that analogy to, for example, self-driving car, more or less, you see a full trunk of technology today. And again, of course, to imagine how technology will change and develop is impossible for anyone in this room to know. But I hope that this historical reflection can at least open up your mind to think about what can and cannot happen in the future. It makes me at least quite humble making this presentation to look at this picture. Well, if we then sum up, what does this mean in terms of the second wave digital transformation? And I was trying to make the point that if we look at the first wave of digital transformation, we see, of course, connecting people, places, interaction and transaction as the focal point of the transformation. And this is what we know today. But with the technological developments that we have put a lot of R&D into, so 5G, IoT, analytics, cloud, blah, 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 this is the boundary that we are pushing to bring digitization into industries, into business processes, into the way that you organize your internal supply chain, your external supply chain, how you ultimately in the future define the structure of industry. And this is, I think, why it's important maybe to really think about what this picture means. On your left-hand side, you would have maybe a traditional way of organizing and structuring industries, where ICT had its own silo and its own structure. But what we're trying to say, well, with these changes that we see around us, ICT will become an embedded capability, not only for exchanging financial data from your annual books or your information between employees or your store data in your cloud, that becomes an integral part of multiple industries' capability, how you organize consumption, how you organize distribution, how you organize your production, how you organize your company internally, externally, how you set up your business model, and ultimately the infrastructure. So maybe this is one important picture to reflect upon today. How do we think about the opportunities for Taiwan in this perspective? Of course, this is a big high-level picture, so bringing it to an industrial context, what does these changes mean for businesses? And really what we see are a number of factors here that have to do outside pressure. Of course, here the policymakers and governments can help to create and stimulate change in the industry or in the government to allow certain developments to change. You have companies inside who have control, and here I think the difference is very much between those who have an analog heritage and those who have a digital fresh start, two different cases. I think that looking at the traditional industry and what kind of pain points they will go through, I would say rather look at companies like GE or maybe John Deere or IKEA who have an analog heritage, and what are they doing to become more digitally transformed? Well, of course, there is a lot of inspiration to be gained from those who were born digitally, and they have made enormous journeys. None of them had to go through a transformation. So there is a different path to walk. Ultimately, we think what this means is that every product is a digital service waiting to happen in this next wave of transformation. And this is, I think, quite a big way for anyone in different sectors to think, what does it mean that today I am selling a physical product, but in the future I will be selling a digital service? It's a big mind shift. Given that we are here today at NCC, of course, another aspect comes into mind, and what does this mean for policymakers? So I have been talking about the digital industry and technology, but having the opportunity to have traveled around 40, 50 countries to talk about digital transformation, I think this is one of the conclusions that we make when we discuss with policymakers, that what is the role of policymakers from a fundamental point of view in all this? And I think the World Bank report, Digital Dividends from 2016, is a good lesson, not only because some of our research was actually referenced in that report, but because we were trying to make this comment that there are, of course, and this is different from country to country because of many factors, that these technological trends, of course, will have different consequences. Not every country benefits the same from electrification. Not every country benefits the same from combustion engine. Different countries have benefited or not benefited from technology in different ways. So it's important to understand why is that the case. And what may work in one country might not necessarily exactly work in the same country because the context is different. So maybe one way to remind ourselves is that those benefits that we see, and if you look at those economic studies, like the OECD or anyone else, it is very easy to feel that these benefits become automatic. You just do some technology deployments and those great outcomes will flow. So it's not so. They are not automatic, they are not given, and they will definitely not be symmetrically distributed. And of course today, inequality in technology is quite an pertinent and growing concern. So I think that is also important to think about. And ultimately, they are not limitless. And I hope we learned that lesson from the dot-com bubble, but it's good to remind ourselves that no technological benefits are limitless. So this brings me back to this picture, really. If we look at these different key trends around change, where do we see a role for policy making in terms of public governance reforms, where the public policy can come closer to individuals of a society, where public services can decisively be reshaped to provide better service availability to different stakeholders in society. But of course, also when we look at businesses, and especially those who were not born digital, where can policymakers make different type of market reforms to tap into these opportunities to help stimulate this change? So I think this is maybe a good starting point to think about how does Taiwan square into this picture, and maybe a SWOT analysis here is a good place to develop those thoughts. So saying what I already said maybe in before is important, that in this process of trying these findings, opportunities for public sector reforms or market reforms, technology alone will not do it. There is nothing coded in any vendor's products that will deliver those outcomes. We believe that there is a strong role for policymakers to participate. Again, all technological revolution have yielded different results for different countries. This is not a statistical or by chance outcomes. It is very context specific. And also, there are not only benefits and positive aspects of technology, there are also challenges. Privacy, cybersecurity, etc., what also has to be thought of. So one way of thinking maybe of how governments on the highest level can engage in digital transformation, of course, is to think of their overarching agenda, how to form their views and coordinate the government in this process. And of course, having clear vision and objective about where we want to go is always a prerequisite for this type of exercises. I would also like to stress the need for doing a proper national SWOT analysis, because understanding the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunity of every country is to understand the context where this technology will be deployed. This has impact for organizing the priority of the interventions, and also think about where do we get the most return from our industrial competitiveness from these policies. And there are other areas as well to consider. And one I would like to highlight is actually the strategic framework for policy making. And in basic terms, what we are trying to say, well, if we look at the digital transformation of a country, we see these 5 key components where governments need to coordinate their action. Yes, we have the supply side ICT policies, so telecom regulation, network regulation, net neutrality, spectrum, all that. And that is very important, of course. But again, supply side alone will not fix it. Then we have also issues around human capital and skills. In the second wave transformation, I think, where in the first wave, the ICT skills were very human-centric, because we talk about connecting things and changing organization. I think also organizational ICT skills become very important. And then, of course, changing the processes internally, governance structures, so how organization, old economy organization deal with this transformation is very important. Dear friend of Chairwoman and myself from the ACMA, Chris Chapman, once told me when I was speaking to him a few years in Australia about digital transformation, he told me, well, Rene, you as the industry always forget to remember one thing. While you have ventured through a lot of organizational changes, you have matrix organization, you have process flows, most of the governments around the world are still in vertical silos. And ICT cross horizontally through these different silos. So how do we cope with that challenge? I think that's a very good example of these transformational changes. Maybe of interest is, of course, is what are governments doing on the top side of the digital transformation and in the ICT ecosystem. So what we see here in the current context of 5G, a lot of piloting and tests. So we have different projects around the world, so 5G for Germany, 5G for Italy, 5G for France, etc., where we see a lot of action from government, which is about pilots, putting together different stakeholders, so vendors, operators, universities, startups, and in specific industrial contexts, test new opportunities, new business ideas, new changes. So it is very much about learning by doing at this stage. And we as a company have a number of experiences in mining, when we are trying these technologies, in manufacturing, connecting harbors, agriculture, connected cars, connected transportation. And this is very much a test bed activity right now. So that is, I think, one area. The other, of course, is what is happening on the supply side in terms of regulation. And here we see a number of discussion taking place. So of course, the discussion around 5G spectrum is one very specific, but also in terms of coverage in the licensing condition. Please remember, when you were building your conditions for 4G and 3G, you were thinking of connecting people. Where do they live, mostly? Now we need to think about where do people generate value and machines. So this is our view of which are the key supply-side ICT policies that we think are important from a government point of view to think about reforming policies to make digital transformation successful. So we see need for reviewing supply-side policies. We see a number of demand-side policy areas, and of course some of the horizontal condition. And the big challenge, of course, is to create an environment where these different typical silos of policy-making governments actually is reinforcing the direction of digital transformation and doesn't create an internal conflict. So on one side, you have a very proactive digital strategy, but maybe on another policy domain, you have a very restrictive one, which collides with the former. So from a digital transformation point of view, this is not the final, but almost final slide. If I may summarize, it is very much around industrial policy development that we see in this second wave of digital transformation. So we see different type of cross-sector programs being deployed, a lot of focus on R&D and early stage commercialization. And if we look at the national strategies from 10 years ago, they were very much focusing on quality of service, connecting the population and the basic infrastructure needs. Now we see more focus on the infrastructure needs. So how can we use infrastructure to boost national competitiveness? In which particular sectors of economy do we want to see an improvement so that our industry can maintain competitiveness in the global market? And also I think that the discussion in the policy context is very much more now focused on outcomes. How do we measure the outcomes? How do we actually assure that these programs and reforms we are putting in place will actually deliver a very concrete result in terms of industrial competitiveness, in terms of certain sectorial development? So there are many programs out in different countries, but I think that the challenge primarily is about how. This is why the focus on pilots and testing. It's the how that is the big challenge. It's not the whys. I think many people understand why this is important today, but how to do it, I think it's the critical answer that most are looking for. So if I can round off with last picture maybe, and this is of course not the full list of things, but if there are three things that I would like to stress here is of course that there is a need for leadership, both on industry side and also, of course, in the policy making. And I'm so glad that Chairman Chan is one of those leaders who is trying to stimulate the discussion here in Taiwan to achieve these outcomes. Yes, policies and regulation will have to change, but I think right now we are in the test bed trial period, so we need to learn from that to be able to then conclude what is the appropriate change required. This is an exploratory exercise. It's very hard to forecast and logically deduct what needs to change, but really we need to learn from empirical experiences. And thinking of a high quality infrastructure in terms of infrastructure, I think is the final thing to consider. These machines, things, will, of course, require performance in terms of availability, in terms of speed, in terms of security. The number of key characteristics where best effort thinking of the first wave of digital will not be enough. So I hope I haven't talked too much, but I hope that some of these examples and ideas have informed your thinking, and I believe I will have the chance to maybe take some questions at the panel later this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your insightful perspective. Thank you, Mr. Renee Summer. Please return to your seat. 接下来要进行我们的第二场专题演讲，智慧连结引领数位新格局。让我们掌声邀请 IDC 亚太区物联网研究总监 Mr. Randy Roberts。
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. So thank you so much for the invitation to come. I'm very happy to be here to talk about IDC's view of the intelligent platform, the intelligent connectivity. My slides today will focus primarily on the operator's point of view, what IDC refers to as the communication service provider, or the CSP. So what we're going to talk about in my slides is the transformation from a CSP to a digital service provider, from a communication service provider to a digital service provider. So we'll talk about what we believe needs to happen in the network for the operator's point of view, but also some specific examples of what other operators around the world are actually doing to transform their network from an operations standpoint, but also their business from a business standpoint when it comes to transforming into a digital service provider. So first of all, what do we believe is required for this new intelligent platform moving forward as we go from 4G to narrowband IoT, LTM, 5G with IoT applications, etc. So multi-protocol connectivity with dynamic virtualized core network plus agile use case aligned platforms will be key to enabling value delivery. So let me touch on these, and we'll go into more detail on these as well in the coming slides. But let's talk about each line independently. Multi-protocol connectivity. So that means the network or the platform of the future will have to support 4G, 5G of course, but also low power WAN, potentially satellite connectivity as well, NFC, RFID. But the platform itself needs to be able to support multiple kinds of connectivity as we talk about all the different things and all the different applications that are going to be required as we go forward. The second line, dynamic virtualized core network. So from the network standpoint, really being aggressive in deploying software-defined networking, really being aggressive in deploying NFV, network function virtualization, moving the network, just not the edge pieces of the network, but the core network into the cloud as well. These are very fundamental things that are going to have to be happening from the network standpoint over the coming years for the operators to move into a position where they can become a real digital service provider. Agile use case aligned platforms. So this is really focused mostly on IoT and IoT platforms. What we see at IDC happening around the world is so far, about half of the IoT projects that are being launched around the world, not just in Asia, but around the world, half of them are successful, half of them are not. For those that are successful, those IoT projects that have been successful, they're typically vertically oriented, not horizontal, but very vertically oriented. So when we talk about use case aligned platforms, what we mean is platforms that are developed to support specific use cases and specific applications. So for example, manufacturing specifically, transportation, fleet monitoring, fleet tracking, connected cars. But those platforms that are very well focused on these specific use cases are the ones that have the higher probability of success, is what we're seeing so far at IDC. So these are the key elements we believe are key to this intelligent platform and intelligent connectivity as we go forward. So from an operator standpoint, 5G is as Renee says, obviously built specifically for new kinds of applications, connecting devices, and that's true. But from an operator standpoint, clearly operators don't have to wait for 5G to do this. So there's an evolution from the existing networks that are out there today in 4G to move towards 5G. There are a lot of changes that operators can be making to support their operational transformation and also their business transformation to be more digital, including moving from the legacy networks, as I talked about earlier, to more virtualization. Moving to more software-defined networking, virtualization in the network, moving off of hardware, moving more parts of the network into the cloud, the core network into the cloud, and some of the operators around the world are starting to do this now, but this is a key element of moving towards this digital platform, is moving things more and more into the cloud. And then ultimately, and again, this is all in preparation for 5G, and the message here is that operators today don't have to wait for 5G. They can be making changes in the network to move towards it. And then lastly is network slicing, and network slicing is an architectural feature specific to 5G, of course. But what this ultimately means is being able to utilize and prioritize your network resources to support specific kinds of applications. So again, from an operator standpoint, there are changes that they can be making today in their networks to move towards being prepared for network slicing as well. They don't have to wait until 5G. So again, preparing for the switch over to 5G. As Renee said, in the US this year already, there will be over a dozen cities that are launched. In China, there will be several cities also launched with 5G. Fixed wireless access will probably be the first way that they go. For other parts of Asia, it will be later, Taiwan included, as you know. 2020, 2021 is more likely to see 5G. Again, moving towards network slicing and distributed networking in the cloud is an important piece. And one other thing I want to touch on here, again, new applications coming to the market that require low latency. 5G is built for that, also provides low latency, but it's also important for those applications like autonomous driving, those critical kinds of applications, telehealth is another example, that require 1 millisecond or less of latency times versus the 10 to 20 milliseconds that we have today. We're going to be required to move more and more of the functionality of the network and more and more of the cloud out closer and closer to the actual devices that are collecting the data. So moving the intelligence out into the edge of the core network, or out of the edge of the network, to shrink the latency that's involved in supplying those kinds of applications. So IoT will be one of the key drivers for applications and services for 5G. 5G and becoming a digital service provider is actually mostly about the data, right? Generating the data from the network, from the users, from the behavior, from the applications, from the devices, and then analyzing that data, deriving unique insights from that data. So IoT will be the primary driver of creating the kind of data that will be required in driving the operator's businesses going forward. Again, we talk about very low latency kinds of applications. AT&T and Verizon in the US will be launching some of these things already. 5G is promising, as we know, faster speeds, 10 times what we have today, a bigger pipe, improved coverage, 10 times the number of devices connected to a tower that we have today, lower battery consumption, lower latency as well. But again, IoT is one of the key drivers of the data for these networks. And back to the multi-access kind of capabilities and support that we talked about on the first slide, operators have to be ready to support any kind of access mode, whether it's 5G, low power WAN technologies, or satellite in some cases as well, in order to make sure that they provide coverage for everything that's needed, even in the most remote places of the market. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the move from 4G, the transition from 4G to 5G. There are a lot of things that can happen in network already today. Now we touched on IoT. So what is the real opportunity for IoT? So I'm going to share now data from an IDC survey that we do 2 times a year. We call it the IoT Spending Guide. And what this is a forecast of the amount of money that's going to be spent in each of the markets, in each of the regions and countries. And we cut it by vertical markets, so what vertical markets are going to be having most of the investment, use cases as well. And then we also look at the spend in the ecosystem for IoT in each of the markets. We talked about really the goal of digital transformation for the operators is monetizing the data. Really, it's all about the data, and IoT is all about generating that data. So ultimately, IoT is is the tool that we're using to generate this data, to be honest, from the device to the connectivity to the platforms to the applications. And this is this is IDC's version of an IoT platform, and I want to talk about this just briefly again because the collection of the data is so important in terms of the ecosystem for IoT and providing the data that's required for the operators. So we start with the things at the bottom that are connected. Clearly, end-to-end security is a key part of the platform as well. And at the top, we have IoT applications. And I talked about earlier the importance of these platforms being application-centric and use case-centric to be able to tackle a specific kind of application in the marketplace. But what's key is, and one of the reasons I want to talk about this slide is because it's very complex. IoT is complex, obviously, from a technology standpoint, but also from a people standpoint in terms of skill sets that are required, and process standpoint as well from inside the company, and generating new kinds of processes that allow you to become more digital. But from the IoT platform standpoint, we look at device management. These are the key elements that we believe are important for the IoT platform. Device management, obviously, but also now data ingestion and integration and data storage, data transformation. These are key elements that a lot of the operators and even the enterprises in the markets don't think about when they get into the IoT projects and proof of concept projects that they're trying to get done. But you're going to have data coming from all different sources, 3, 4, multiple sources of data that are providing maybe CDR data, consumer behavior data, network data, traffic data, navigation data, location data, whatever it happens to be. But the ingestion and the transformation of this data in a platform and then being able to make sense of that is a big, big step. It's a complex step. That's something that the operators have to be very, very aware of. Analytics then next is the next step up, is also clearly very important now to be able to look across all the data sources, understand what data is important for you, analyzing that data, and then making it available to the decision makers from a visual standpoint as well. And then on top of this is opening up APIs for the developer community as well. Again, those experts that have the experience in developing applications for specific vertical markets. So this is from a platform standpoint, what we believe at IDC is a really, really important part of the core network as we, again, move from 4G to 5G in terms of becoming this digital service provider from a CSP. So now I'm going to get into some very specific IoT data for Asia and for Taiwan as well from the IDC surveys that we do. This is something that we call the IoT maturity assessment. We do this at a global level. We also do it as an Asian regional view as well. And this is the ranking of 13 countries in Asia in terms of what we believe is their maturity level to support IoT. In this, we look at 10 different factors, including GDP per capita, ICT spend, IoT spend, broadband penetration. We also look at governmental support as well. So how easy is it to do business in a country? How supportive is the government? How many steps does it take to start a new business in that country? So we look at technology support, we also look at governmental support, and then we score the countries based on those results. And as you can see here, this is the result of that with Taiwan coming in at number 6. Not surprising that South Korea, Singapore, some of those countries that are already sort of very aggressive in terms of their IoT deployments are higher on the list. In those developing countries are a little bit lower on the list. I think next year when we do this survey again, it'll be interesting to see how some of these developing countries move up this list because they are now being quite aggressive in what they're doing around IoT, particularly in the public-private partnerships inside some of these countries, Vietnam in particular, where the government and the private industries are working quite closely together to be more aggressive in IoT. So now here's some of the spending data that we collect in the survey that we do twice a year at IDC. So this is an APAC view, excluding Japan and China, of the IoT spend. So you can see in 2020 that the total spend is about $135 billion in the Asian region on IoT in 2020. And of that $135 billion, Taiwan represents about $10 billion of spend in 2020 on IoT. At the bottom you see Korea, India, Australia, Indonesia, and then Taiwan is number 4 on the list. So this tells you the size of the market for IoT spending in Asia, growing from 2020 from 135 to over 160 billion in 2022. Now, another view of the same data is from an ecosystem spend. So I talked about the fact that we also track how the money is going to be invested in IoT from an ecosystem standpoint. So we break down all the different pieces of the ecosystem, from connectivity to ongoing services and content to the hardware, module, applications, installation services, analytics software, and we forecast. The 2017 number is an actual spend number, and then we forecast from 2018 going forward. So what this is saying is that connectivity is the largest, at least in this year, connectivity is the largest area of spend for the ecosystem. Second is ongoing services and content. Third is module and sensor. Fourth is application software. So a couple of key messages from this slide in terms of where the money is being spent. It appears here that you can see that connectivity is large and will continue to grow, but this is not where the value is going to come from. Inside this connectivity spend, if we break this down into different kinds of connectivity: Wi-Fi, fixed networks, cellular, low power WAN, satellite. So the reality is, within this dark blue box here, bar here for connectivity, only about 15% in Asia, only about 15% of this is actually spent on cellular connectivity. Over half, about 55% of this spend in connectivity is on fixed networks. Broadband networks, ADSL, Ethernet, fiber, Wi-Fi as well as included. Over 50% of the money that's being spent is on fixed networks, not on cellular. So from a cellular operator's point of view, only about 15% of this is actually revenue coming for the cellular piece. Other parts are low power WAN and satellite spend, that sort of thing. What's interesting is here, so as the message says here, ongoing services, meaning X as a service, as Renee said earlier, device as a service kind of things, is actually the second largest area of spend. Application software and ongoing services, where the real growth is coming from. Devices and connectivity are also a large part of the spend, but this is not where the growth is coming from, and this is certainly not where the margins are coming from. And maybe if I go back to talk about Taiwan in particular, as you know, in connectivity, it's quite competitive in Taiwan in terms of prices, so the revenues actually are not looking to go up. They're actually flat or maybe coming down because of the price pressures in the market here today. But in terms of going forward, one of the messages that I always talk about with our operator customers at IDC is in terms of where you want to invest and where the growth is coming from. It's going to be coming from ongoing services, X as a service, and from application software. This is where you want to be looking to invest, because this is where the growth is coming from, and this is where the margins are going to be coming from. So moving from a CSP to a DSP, from today's operator to a digital operator, this is another thing you need to keep in mind as you're transforming your network from 4G to 5G. You also have to be focused more and more on the service side, content side, and the application side of what's happening in order to be invested in where the growth areas are going to be in the future that allow you to take advantage of the data that's being collected, as we talked about, and then turn that into monetization via services and applications. So this is one of the key messages here. There may be another advantage in Taiwan on the module and sensor side, of course, as well, because you do have a lot of manufacturing capabilities in Taiwan, obviously. So there's some advantage here potentially in terms of volumes of devices that are being made in Taiwan, driving the cost down. So there may be a cost advantage in Taiwan on the device side. But again, this is not where the big growth is going to be coming from. Now, the same data we look at, again, this is Taiwan specific. So in Taiwan specifically, in the vertical market, these are the leading vertical markets in Taiwan where the money is going to be spent in the future. We start at the bottom. Process manufacturing, discrete manufacturing, transportation, consumer is quite big in Taiwan, which is unique to Taiwan. Healthcare providers, professional services, utilities, state government. So in 2020, these are the leading vertical markets for Taiwan. And if you group together the first two vertical markets, which are discrete manufacturing and process manufacturing, they come together to total over $3 billion. So in 2020, the biggest market for Taiwan will be in manufacturing. So again, when you want to think about it, which markets to invest in, if you want how to prioritize the vertical markets that you might want to go after, clearly manufacturing in Taiwan is the place that you want to be, followed by transportation, and consumer is quite large as well. And as I say here, transportation and consumer, which is the light green and the purple boxes here, are actually the fastest growing vertical markets in Taiwan in terms of going forward for IoT. We also look at, this is Asia, APAC data, but we also look at IoT spend from a use case level. We go inside the vertical markets, and we actually look at the specific use cases inside those vertical markets. Since manufacturing is the largest market inside Taiwan, I wanted to share with you here to give you an idea of what's happening. This is another survey at IDC that we do, and we ask our enterprise customers, what are they actually doing today in terms of launching IoT applications? We ask them, what are you doing today that's in production, that you're launching? What are you doing 1 year from now that may be a pilot or a proof of concept? And what are you doing two years or further, that's something that you're researching? So this allows us to kind of get an idea of a roadmap, if you will, in IoT for the operators and what they're going to be launching in the coming 1 to 3 years, for example. So what this is saying is manufacturing today already in production. Customers are launching security services, payment services, monitoring of the environment, environmental monitoring inside a factory, and tracking of inventory within the factory as well. So kind of the low-hanging fruit of relatively simple, straightforward IoT applications are what are being launched today. Going forward, 54% are piloting some sort of a product performance automation, energy management inside the factory. 46% are doing a proof of concept around fleet tracking, and 52% are piloting something around improving quality and the yield management in terms of the manufacturing line itself. So this is what they're doing today in terms of pilots and proof of concepts. So we have a view inside each of the vertical markets, what are the specific use cases being developed, and when are they being developed as well, again, to help create a kind of a product roadmap. So when our operator customers ask us where should we be focused, we can share this with them and give them some idea of what they should be developing. So the last few slides I have here are specific examples from another survey that we did at IDC, but also specific examples of what other operators around the world are doing today in reality as they're moving from a CSP to a DSP. So I have 2 slides from another survey that we do at IDC, asking operators specifically what are their challenges and their drivers around moving to digital transformation. So the key drivers for the operators, the top 3 innovation enablers, they're looking to leverage big data and analytics. As we talked about before, this is the big goal, is to use the data that's being collected to drive insights. Virtualization, they're focused on virtualization technologies, as we talked about, software-defined networking and network function virtualization. And also a big challenge for them is acquiring new skills, new digital skills around the data analytics that they don't have necessarily today inside the operator as well. The importance of opportunities in digital transformation, they want to improve employee productivity, reduce time to deploy new products, reduce cost of delivery. So what's interesting about these responses is if you look at the top 3, they are all internally focused. So when we typically think about transformation, we think about new data services and generating revenue, but this is telling you that what the operators are saying is their first priority is to improve what they're doing internally. They want to improve their own employee productivity, they want to get faster at launching new products, and then they want to reduce the cost of the services that they're delivering. And then they begin to look at addressing new markets and expanding and that sort of thing. But they're very much focused on improving their own transformation internally. The challenges, what's interesting here in the top 3 challenges is processes for information restricted and organized. So there are challenges around the information in organizational silos inside their own company, also in conflicting initiatives from the lines of business. I point out these 2 because these are 2 challenges that have nothing to do with technology, but have everything to do with arranging the organization to be able to communicate better and work closely together in terms of how do they together transform this company rather than continuing to work in these silos, which is what most operators are doing today. And then top 3 challenges around delivering the infrastructure transformation, determining, it's really difficult as we know, determining ROI when you're developing these new infrastructure models when you're going to software-defined networks and virtualization. It's really difficult to define an ROI because it may not be so clear. Migration strategies from existing infrastructure. So these are clearly the challenges. The necessity that we see of moving towards a digital platform are clearly what they're also seeing as the biggest challenges to make that happen. 2 more slides, and these are, again, examples of what the operators are doing today in reality. So the first slide is on the business transformation activities, and then the last slide I have is on operational transformation. So for business transformation, again, and this is about, as we talked about in the beginning, ultimately this is about monetizing the data that's being collected. And the operators are, of course, in the best position of anybody because they're right in the center, the sort of the gatekeeper of all the information that's going back and forth, so they're in a great position to take advantage of it. But Singtel, for example, is working with a company called DataSpark to track what tourists are doing in Singapore, where are they going, where are they shopping, how much are they spending, and then using that and selling that information back to retail customers to help them identify customers. Verizon in the U.S. is working with a company called Precision Market Insights, and they're going into sports venues and stadiums in the U.S. and tracking the attendees of the games, and again, what are they doing, where are they spending their money, and they're basically introducing the attendees of these venues in the events with the sponsors of those teams in those stadiums to try to be the matchmaker to drive more sales for the sponsors of the stadium. In Korea, SK Telecom is leveraging location and event data, and they're doing this actually to do more around traffic monitoring and crisis management in case something happens. Where are the people in these big events? How do we navigate them, and how do we direct them if something happens to a safe exit? Orange is tracking tourist behavior. Again, where are the tourists going? Where are they shopping? What are they doing? And again, turn those insights into something that they can monetize by selling it back to the retail customers. And then StarHub in Singapore is also doing tracking to drive traffic into retail stores based on the data that they're collecting. And then the last slide I have is around the operational transformation, as we talked about, going from the CSP to DSP from an operational standpoint. And this is really about managing multi-vendor environments and their existing legacy networks, and how do they now move to a digital platform with the software-defined networking, et cetera. Some real, again, examples of what these companies are doing. So Telefonica's focus is on an end-to-end operational transformation. They're focused on everything from commercial IT. The organization is in business as well, as they should be, because as I mentioned earlier, it's complex from a technology standpoint, but also from a process and a people standpoint, so you have to be focused on all. Vodafone focused on their native markets in the beginning for the back-end systems of BSS and OSS. Now they're rolling those out to their other operational companies in the other countries. Etisalat in UAE, they've codenamed their project internally as Coders because they're focused on connected, open, delightful, efficient, responsive, and smart. So these are sort of the key drivers that they keep in mind as they launch their internal transformation systems. Telstra is implementing Net Promoter Scores to monitor and measure the success of their transformation from an operational standpoint. And then China Mobile is focused on the tactical and the strategic, and they're very much focused on the key measurements as well. They spend a lot of time defining the key measurements in the very beginning so that they knew what success looks like when they do their transformation from an operational standpoint. So from a network standpoint, evolution, from a real-life transformational examples of what's happening, I hope this gives you an idea of what's happening in the market today in terms of what needs to happen for the operators to go from a CSP to a digital service provider. So that's all I've got. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Randy Roberts, to give us such important speech. Thank you very much. 现在呢，我们是现场休息交流15分钟的时间。我们在场外备有茶点，我们的洗手间在我们大荧幕的后方两侧，所以请各位呢从我们的这个入口处呢，从左右两边的侧的通道进入啊。那我们15分钟之后会有关键的对谈，我们探讨智慧连结下的挑战与契机。在现场的同时哦，我们会有线上的问答，所以欢迎您在我们这个休息时间呢，可以见我们的大会手册第一页，扫描我们的 QR code， 输入2100的这个密码，请把握我们休息的时间，我们15分钟后回到现场，谢谢大家。好， 现场的各位贵宾，欢迎您回到我们2018数位应用论坛的现场，欢迎各位回来。接下来进入我们的关键对谈的交流时间啊，我们先有请我们的讲者与谈人来到台上。首先，让我们欢迎我们今日的主持人，政治大学传播学院教授陈义宁陈教授。And once again, let's welcome Director of Government and Industry Relations at Ericsson Group, Mr. Renee Summer. Please come up to the stage. And Research Director, IoT and Telco for IDC Market Research, Asia Pacific, Mr. Randy Roberts. 以及台湾宽屏董事长于宗义于董事长，中华电信业务执行副总经理马宏灿马副总。Head of Strategic Engagement, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Macau, GSMA 谢志德，我们有请以上几位贵宾来到台上，进行我们的关键语谈。
Hi, good morning. A sincere welcome to everyone. I'm Catherine Chen. I think some of you may have known me very well. I've been working for the NCC for 4 years, and I just left NCC 2 months ago. So lots of old friends here, and nice to see you. Okay, I'm a professor and just ex or former commissioner, and I'm a professor of communication from National Zhenjiang University, and it's an honor to be here to serve as a moderator for this panel. And we just heard 2 experts talking about 5G, IoT, AI. So I think those are from experts' perspective, but I think as a communication scholar, I think those are not plain English to me, and so. You know, it's a very good opportunity for me to learn new things here. For this panel, we probably should use plain English to talk about new technology. And I just heard a new term here about second wave of digital transformation. And as a communication scholar, I would ask, what does that really mean to everyone here? And for me, I think there will be 3 things to do here for the second wave. First is the digital transformation of government itself. Okay. Second is the transformation of the telco companies or cable companies. And third thing is digital transformation is actually a means, not the end. So we should start to think about what can we use digital transformation to solve real-world problems, such as pollutions, aging populations, health, fake news, disinformation or misinformation, those real-world problems. So I think that's my perspective. The most important thing is to solve problems. Okay. Now, but I think for here, this panel is basically based on the intention to discuss 5G, IoT, AI, and to see how this technology could transform the society. Okay, we just heard 2 experts, and they're Randy Roberts from IDC and Renee Summer from Ericsson. And we have 3 other guests here. The first is my right, the first right, Taiwan Broadband Communications Chairman Thomas Yu. Okay, he's an old friend of NCC. Okay, and the General Manager of GSMA Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan Strategic Cooperation, Mr. William Xie. Okay, and Zhonghua Telecom Ma Hongcan 先生. Okay. Okay, warm welcome to our distinguished guests. Okay, so let us continue the discussion based on the 2 previous speakers concerning intelligent connectivity. First, I would like to ask Renee. Okay, my first question for you is, okay, for many years, the Taiwan government has been putting forth great efforts in promoting broadband network penetration and increasing network speeds through digitization policies. Based on your keen understanding of broadband and digital economy policies in other advanced countries, you just mentioned you visit 45 countries, right? Okay. How should Taiwan government encourage broadband network operators collaborate with other industries for innovative services based on your global experiences?
Yes. So in terms of doing innovative research projects. So we are not talking about doing more of the same, but looking into the new opportunities. I think it is very important to consider what you say, that ultimately digitization is a means to outcome. So I think the outcomes should be the drivers. If we look at this from a national strategy point of view, I think that it is important to understand which of the key industrial sectors are of most relevance. I mean, going to run this presentation, most countries, which I mean, are not the big ones. So they will not win in this race with scale. They need to be smart and more flexible and more agile to get the results. So in that context, I think Finland was an interesting experience, although coming from Sweden, that they put a lot of emphasis to conduct a national SWOT analysis. And from there, they could make the priorities in which are the outcomes, which are the weaknesses in this digital transformation which we need to rectify, and which are the opportunities that we need to strengthen. And I think this comes from a genuine industrial and leadership work. This is not a technology question. Based on those two outcomes or results you find there, I think from there you can start discuss how can operators, vendors, universities, the local ICT industry be part of these pilots, test beds to drive results. So in the case of Sweden, for example, there are a few areas where by no accident the government has incentivized different stakeholders, for example, in the mining sector, which is an important sector for Sweden. We have manufacturing sectors, it's another. We have transports, we have both Volvo and Scania, major truck manufacturers, where they have put together a number of pilots and projects, created testbed areas to engage different stakeholders with the outcomes looking at how can we make these sectors more competitive globally. So not for domestic economy, but really for an export context. I think in that sense, Taiwan and Sweden are similar because they are very export-oriented economies. I think there is also, of course, a discussion of soft values in sense how can we make transportation more sustainable, so more efficient from a consumption point of view, organizing transport in a more efficient way. So I think these are some examples. Maybe as a final token also when it comes to virtual reality technologies and safety in one of the mines when we have projects, the idea is to provide an escape route in terms of emergency for the people in the mine. So you can actually use virtual reality to help you to navigate you out from a mine in case of an incident. So yes, we do the connected stuff in the mine to take people out, but there will still be people in the mine. And how can we improve the security in state of emergency where technology can make a difference?
Okay, thank you. Okay, then my next question goes to 马洪灿先生，中华 Telecom. Okay, I know 就是我们在现场，对不起，我要用中文在这里。就是中华电信在不管是在这个软体硬体上面，都是在国内的 telco 当中是居领先地位哦。然后呢，我们也觉得中华电信是老大哥，然后他的确也做了很多的事情，比方说，在我的资料里面看到中华电信最近整合大数据、云端、资安等关键能力。那我想请教马副总，就是中华电信的面对未来智慧连结的策略思考是什么？那你们如何转换思维？过去是一个传统的这个电信公司，那如何掌握所谓的智慧连结，就是这堂主题啊 ，intelligent connectivity， 它的契机跟优势，协助国内的其他产业提升数位竞争力。谢谢。
OK， 各位好。其实所有的这个电信产业啦，都遇到同样一个议题哦，我们都被称为说电信产业会变成 dumb pipe。正好跟今天的题目啊，正好是相反，就对哦。今天的题目是 intelligent connectivity 哦， 所以中华电信啊，其实大概在10年前的时候呢，就已经开始在推动整个 ICT 这方面服务的转型。那这方面服务转型呢，中华电信自己要提供这样服务呢，其实自己公司本身就要先转型升级。因为如果你自己没有转型升级的话呢，你如何来协助人家做转型升级？所以中华电信做了很多东西其实它是从我们自己需要用的地方来从中淬炼出一些经验，或者是一些平台这方面呢，那然后来跟各个不同的这个产业来提供它的服务。我举例来讲，从网络呢，我们一开始从 Internet。到时候呢，因为你上网就遇到治安的问题，那所以中华电信呢自己就 build in 一个很好治安的平台，甚至到后面成立治安子公司那我们呢自己很多服务也要上云端所以说这个等于说在整个网络 connectivity 都需要，慢慢呢又走到整个智慧化，所以我们也提供 AI 的这方面的一个 platform 给外面来使用。那我们呢？自己也为了提供给台湾很好的 IoT 环境呢，我们也自己从我们研究院做了一个 IoT 的这个大平台出来，这样那也在今年呢，把我们原本在做 Big Data 分析的一个团队独立成为一个 Big Data 的一个处呢，也对外提供服务这样所以我可以讲说，中华电信其实是我们从我们自己内部就需要做转型升级，然后呢，把自己的经验拿来再给外部这边来使用，这样。那当然中华电信因为有某一个成分的官股成分存在呢，所以说很多政府机构里面的专标案，其实我们协助政府做非常多比如讲说，我随便举例，像那个公路监理那方面从第1代、第2代、第3代。几乎都是我们来协助做的那现在还有很多不同的这个比如财税的这个系统，也是中华电信去帮政府来做这样那另外呢，我们在其实也是中华电信。那中华电信呢，其实也是跟所有的机构一样，我们也是经过公开招标的这个程序来做这样所以我想。在这样的程序里面呢，我们先从这边做了一些经验以后呢，那我们也接着在不同产业，比如讲我们针对这个流通业，就针对我们的这个金融产业甚至呢我们电玩的产业或电竞的产业呢，他们遇到需要这个比较 smart 的 connectivity 的东西呢，我们都来协助他解决这样子所以我想，我们从这里面呢，是在累积里面的经验中呢，我们发觉其实任何一个产业要导入这样的观念里面呢，其实最重要还是人才的培育，就对所以中华电信因为我们有我们的研究院，所以从研究院里面自己的人的培育，到衍生到各个不同的机构里面，这样来往前走的话呢。那让整个希望在台湾这里面的所有的产业都能够让我们基础的刚刚讲的 infrastructure 到 infrastructure 到让我们产业呢每一个人都能够走到智慧化呢，那也都更有竞争力这样
谢谢马总，可以看出来CHT 他在 transform himself as a data company, right? OK, 非常谢谢马副总。接下来呢，my third question goes to Thomas. Thomas is more like a professor than I. He can talk for hours, you know. Okay, but I can just leave him 10 minutes. Okay, Thomas, you have been working in Taiwan for more than 10 years, right? Okay, and you have witnessed all the milestones in cable TV industry in Taiwan, which is an extremely high penetration rate now in Taiwan. And after entering the era of digitization, in addition to the number of channels and image quality greatly expanding and improving, broadband services also been enhanced significantly. Gigabyte per second level service has been around the corner. So because cable TV is so widely popular in Taiwan, you know, the penetration rate is about 60% in households. So we can actually expect that the Internet of Things services such as home security, healthcare, energy, entertainment, and other smart home services are also opportunities for cable TV, cable operators in the future. From your perspectives, since you have this last mile advantages, how should cable operators respond in a wise manner? You know, actually, when we talk about 5G or a IoT, you know, as a communication scholar, I'm just so afraid that cable operators will be left out, you know, because of new technology. So I want to know what cable operators, you know, what the boss is thinking.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether I should use English or Chinese, but since our guests have taken off the translator, so I'll use English, if that's okay, since my Mandarin has proven to be quite bad. I think from a cable operator's perspective, 5G is really a welcoming initiative. As you can see from the US, cable labs have been pushing a big deal about 5G as a key part of backhaul, front haul, and supporting the 5G development. And I think that will go beyond the US borders into Europe and other parts of Asia as well. So I think just like most of the advanced cable operators around the world, we are really pushing a lot more fiber to the ground to support that 5G deployment in the areas that we cover. I think TBC today is still the only cable labs member in Taiwan. Having said that, I think when I look at all other MSOs, I don't think the strategy has been too much different in terms of supporting 5G rollout, whether it's cable or other MSOs. I think we all recognize that making money from infrastructure is going to be very difficult. So as Catherine had teed up the topic very nicely for us, we, apart from the infrastructure so-called investment, as a company, we certainly think to go beyond that. In fact, last year we have rolled out a smart home device together with Foxconn. We call it the Biantang Gateway or Bento in short. It is a joint project between Foxconn and Google. If we think about that, it's really a home gateway that is really supported by the whole backend of Google Android TV OS. Coincidentally, I think yesterday Amazon announced the Fire TV Cube, which in my mind is actually very similar to what we have rolled out in Taiwan. We're probably 12 months ahead if we look at that versus the what Amazon rolled out on Fire TV. So I think the Fire TV Cube, if you look at it, is really an extension of how a traditional TV provider can support consumers in a more friendly manner. I often said that today when we look at electronic program guide, EPG, you know, you look at which day, which program, which channel, but that's no longer at least how our kids think of content. They don't think of content as a channel. They think of content probably as a movie title, as a drama, as an actor or actress in the cast. So I think that's how, if we look at whether it's the traditional, you know, a la carte by channel or selling a DVD, has rapidly been overtaken by new consumer trends that are no longer going against the traditional way of distributing content. And therefore, if we look at what we are doing on the Bento Gateway, it's really an initiative to support that. And I think what we have learned in the last 12 months and beyond is really that we see Taiwanese consumers in our areas that we have rolled out, over 40,000 homes in our areas right now. We have learned that, you know, they have enjoyed the service because not just they are able to use a Bluetooth input to use voice-activated service to look for content that they want, or even help the younger kids or the older parents at home to enjoy the same entertainment experience as the more advanced users at home. And I think that kind of bring the digital divide issue a bit closer. The next thing that we are, as a company, that we are very much working towards is about home security and elderly care. We do think, be it from the economic point of view and social point of view, with Taiwan's aging population, like many advanced economies in Asia, that's an area that as an operator, we can help to kind of play our part. But I think the problem is too big to solve for a cable operator on its own. So we have to work with, security companies, we have to work with hospitals, we have to work with local governments to make the ecosystem work. We are doing some experiments. And that's an area I feel that from the Taiwan perspective, and also very much in line with the, what we have heard today, the outcome-driven approach that will be beneficial both to the business as well as the consumers.
Okay.
May I just add something to that, just as a reminder? So from a data research, market research standpoint, just remember, as I said earlier, that more than 50% of the IoT over the next almost 10 years, over half of the IoT connections are fixed, ADSL, fiber, right? So remember that, only 15% are cellular, and that'll with 5G that grows, but it grows to about 20% of the total connections. So still, in the foreseeable future, fixed line is still the majority of the IoT connections. And if you remember the vertical markets for Taiwan that I talked about, the number 3 largest market was consumer, and number 4 was healthcare, so remote healthcare. So again, there's still alignment. There's still a huge demand and need for fixed networks for IoT. 5G is coming, and it's going to be growing, but for, as I said, at least to 2025, fixed has a really important role to play for the IoT. Yeah.
Can I also add something? I mean, it's maybe a reflection for both of the gentlemen from the service provider. One thing which I keep thinking of, and I would like to hear your reflection, if you look at the first wave of digital transformation, which I think will be a very relevant strategic consideration for the second wave, is that one of the key differences between infrastructure-based service providers and the pure OTT, in my view, has not been only about technology transformation, but also that both on the content side and the communication side, the infrastructure-based providers tend to think of customers in the context of their infrastructure footprint. So there is a scale disadvantage. So if you look at conventional broadcasters, they were thinking about customers in terms of what is the reach of my broadcast network and the rights, copyrights I have for the physical jurisdiction. From a cable point of view, it would be the cable network reach and the copyright. And from telecom network, it would be the telecom network. Of course, there is a lesson, I think, to be learned from limiting your vision to your physical network reach. If we bring it now to the second wave digitization and look at transport or many other services, clearly these end businesses will be depending on different footprints of networks and network dependencies. How do you look upon that need and having the hindsight of the first wave of digitization? Is there something different about thinking in your strategies in the limits or opportunities where you see the end of your potential business potential? Is it still the network, or you go beyond your access network thinking?
So we see two different approaches. One is for the fixed line, fixed network. There'll be different kinds of applications for IoT or AI. And for the telcos, for the mobile, they have another kind of approach for this new kind of technology. Very good. Okay. I have another question for. Okay, next question goes to William. Okay, William from GSMA. The question here is, actually, in the previous talk by Randy, we saw there's a difference between 4G and the 5G. But I still have some question here. I was told that the 5G is just an upgrade of 4G. And, but from Randy's presentation, I think this kind of question is kind of a wrong question, but I still, I was told to ask this question on stage. So could you elaborate more on what's the difference between 4G and 5G?
Okay, so I think this is a good question, not only from an operator, from the vendor point of view, because today what I want to share is, besides of what we talk about, the speedway, the latency, what 5G can bring into the industry, and what the successful criteria or the ecosystem need to make 5G successful. I think that is more important to discuss in the forum. Okay, so first of all, I can consider from different angles. So first of all, a lot of people knowing or saying that 5G at the very beginning, it is just an enhanced mobile broadband, maybe.
Right.
But from the forward, that will enable what we call not only the intelligence connectivity, it's also intelligent automation. I can give you some example. From GSMA, we not only, before we're just working with the operator, with the equipment vendor to bring in the ecosystem. But what I'm more meeting with the company, I can give you some example. I go to Shenzhen to meet with the a smart robot company. It's a home robot. I can give you what is the business model, or I will emphasize the platform concept. Okay. Before we talk about the platform, I see in the afternoon about the social media, about how we create scale. But like Ma Zhong mentioned, platform now is become the capability exposure.
Yes.
Okay, when I visit the robot company, I say, hey, you are having the study in the AI. It is for because robot, home robot, it's like you need to talking to the robot, become interactive. I ask a question, is a principal researcher. I say, hey, you mentioned in your profile, you research in the AI, it is for the voice recognition, for the interactive. He said, no, our domain expertise is robot. So our AI capability is to focusing on how the robot movement look like a human. I say, so how you do this voice recognition? I say, it's because if the robot speaking in the Mandarin are using the cloud internet service provider, the cloud, the AI capability, the voice recognition capability. If my robot shipping to US, I use US internet company, their voice recognition. So what I mentioned is 5G is talking about interaction. Why we need the low latency? Because of this human interaction. Okay, this is a very advanced home robot. Just imagine, you want to buy a music box or just an education robot. The developers should focusing on the education content they are delivering. But why we need the 5G is because of all this, I would say, capability exposure from this platform business. Why we need the intelligent connectivity because of this, for example, consumer angle. And then from another angle, I visit the Ericsson Nanjing factory. Actually, when we try to promote industrial IoT, okay, the Nanjing Ericsson is working with one of the biggest operator in China. We are not selling the industrial IoT to the factory. They building up the trial in their factory to create the capability, to create the knowledge. After that, at the moment, it's just for monitoring, preventative maintenance. But with 5G, this kind of IoT can move to the production line, move to the real-time robot, move to the next stage. So this is from the enterprise angle, how 5G or how we build a 5G ecosystem to utilize the 5G. So one angle is from consumer, one angle is from industrial, and then I always emphasize because of this platform capability, because of this kind of the real-time, I would say real-time application, and also the personality application that require this latency, require massive IoT, requires massive connectivity. Why we need 5G on top of 4G? So this is, I try to answer this question more from the application rather than from the technology.
Okay, good. Okay, Rene.
May I add another twist to William's comment? I agree with him. If I recall, there is some report from IDC that speaks about 2023, about 25% of all traffic in mobile networks will be real-time traffic. It's very important to make a distinction what is real-time traffic in network and what is someone downloading store data from a cloud, like a YouTube video, a very different scenario. So if you look at this 25%, enough maybe a little bit of challenging is, let's say I would not warn Randy, and I would take a softball and just throw it in his face. 4G means he will get hit from a 1 meter's distance, 40 milliseconds. 5G means he will pick up his hand like Robocop and catch the ball without being unprepared. Okay. So that's the difference between 4G and 5G. If you are unprepared and someone throws a ball at you from 1 meter distance, in 4G you will be hit, in 5G you will capture. Okay. And this is relevant for autonomous driving. This is relevant for any autonomous system that has to respond quickly in an industrial production environment. This is the value of latency, the difference between 4G and 5G. In 4G you will collide, in 5G the system will have time to react and respond.
Okay, I have to ask.
Can I okay, also, sure. William had some great comments. I have a comment on something else he said. So, and I want to bring it up because it's consistent with the data that we see as well. I mentioned earlier that half of the IoT projects that we see being launched are successful. The ones that are successful are those that are vertically focused. So to William's point, it's exactly right. What we see happening is those companies like Bosch and GE and Schneider Electric and these large companies have built on their own, for their own purposes in their own business, applications and platforms that support manufacturing or whatever industry they happen to be in. These are the exact same platforms now these companies are selling externally to other customers because they've seen success with them internally. Now they're selling them externally, and these are the platforms that are being successful, and it's because they were built from the bottom up to address specific use cases in IoT. And this is exactly why they're successful and why the data that we're seeing, and this is why we always talk to our operator customers about this. This is the direction you should be going, is partnering with companies that have these vertical platforms that have proven successes. That improves your chances of being successful as you address these vertical markets as well. So I think it's a great example.
Okay, good. Thank you. So I see that you just mentioned those big, very big and traditional companies that are using 5G for transformation for their own opportunities, right? So how about smaller companies? Like, most of the companies in Taiwan are really relatively small. So can they build their own 5G system as well?
So the answer is yes, absolutely they can. And it's a little bit different. Country by country, it's a little bit different. And I talked about the IoT maturity in the different countries in Asia. Taiwan is quite mature. Singapore is quite mature. Malaysia, Indonesia are not. And one of the reasons that they're not is the ecosystems in some of these countries are just not mature. And by ecosystem, I mean the application developers, the device manufacturers don't exist in some of these countries to support the applications that are being built. So a lot of, in Malaysia, for example, the ecosystem is so immature that if an operator, for example, if TM wants to go launch a manufacturing application for a customer in Malaysia, they have to go to Singapore to buy the device, they have to go to Taiwan to buy a sensor, they have to go to China to find the application because they don't find the partners inside. So what's happening in more mature countries like Taiwan and Korea and Singapore is they're actually growing these small companies. The public-private partnerships between the government and the startup community in these other countries is quite strong. And the investment in the government in innovation hubs and labs to attract startups and small companies to start to build these specific applications is very strong in Singapore and Korea and even to some degree in Taiwan. Taiwan is doing a superb job, a leadership job in terms of the smart city applications, working with public and private. Other countries are doing it in other verticals. But I think in the developing countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, the governments need to get more involved to develop these relationships with the startup community to build the maturity of the ecosystem so that you can have some more success stories in some of the startups in these smaller developing countries. The larger countries are doing it quite successfully in different vertical markets, as I mentioned, Taiwan and smart cities. But the big difference is this public-private partnership that's happening. Yeah.
I want to echo, again, I want to come back to my platform concept because this is enable the SME. So I think this is challenging, how we build the platform capability. But as Zhonghua mentioned, Zhonghua, for example, as a telco, a lot of this capability can be open. So again, in Hong Kong, I'm also working with Hong Kong government has been funded for a research institute, spend a lot of money on the research. Can they be partner to open this capability as the platform? And then also in Taiwan, for example, consumer electronics, semiconductor, industrial IoT is very strong. Can this company can be open the capability? For example, as I mentioned before, consumer electronic in China or US, they open the AI, voice recognition, visual recognition. We need to build up this kind of the capability layer to open. Then let the SME just focusing on their domain expertise in education, in agriculture, or I come back to Taiwan very strong in the consumer electronic. Can they use this cloud layer, not only the data analytic, but also all this capability open to help the SME? I think nowadays a lot of students in university, if you have this capability open to them, they can create lots of new innovation. I can see in Hong Kong, in our science park. I think this is this is a long step to move forward. But I think this is how the worldwide using this platform to stimulate the innovation, yes. And then when we have this platform, it's also easy for the investor to invest because I can join this platform as an investor to find out what is the potential candidate for me to invest. So I emphasize this is a long step to go, but I say in the coming innovation or this application I emphasize on this platform capability opening concept.
So is that very specific? There's a specific project for the government to implement those measures?
So I was saying that that may not, government just put the money to set up the research institute.
So the government is very generous in, in investing, right?
Yes. But how we utilize the result to put together, I think it's the industry should work together, or Taiwan industry should work together based on the strength. Then because now I can see it's the open economy, so we shouldn't just focusing on the Taiwan market. If we have this capability layer, all this consumer electronics, all the consumer application can be built from Taiwan, from the university, from the SME, and then exporting to all over the world, yes.
I couldn't agree more. I think, again, breaking those silos and bringing the SMEs together with those who create the enablers, like operators and vendors, that they have a sandbox, a technical sandbox, where they can then focus on their domain expertise and trialing and piloting new concepts. I think that is I think, an important aspect of success. I don't think the winners will be in ivory towers thinking, philosophically about what is coming. You need to kind of get into the how.
Okay. And sometimes sometimes that means that you fail. Yeah. Sometimes that means you try. The 50% of the IT projects that are not successful are still beneficial because there are learnings in these failures. So you have to Renee's point, you have to try it. You may fail. But you try again and you get it right, and then you improve over time, yeah.
So even for the telcos, big telcos can fail. So, those, we have 5 telcos in Taiwan, and they all have invested a lot for 4G. And actually, they complain a lot, we have spent so much money on 4G, and then the 5G is coming. And so there seems to be more risks coming. So how can we, as a commissioner or the chair at NCC, do you have any kind of a strategy for just offer to her to persuade those telcos to invest more?
Who is the question to?
Or should I voice on behalf of our member? Okay, maybe I put some. Yeah, sure. Okay, maybe I put some initial topic. So of course, to make the 5G successful, besides of what I mentioned, the innovation platform is definitely the spectrum. How the spectrum available, it is an economy way to access the spectrum to the operator. This is one angle. And then another is about GSMA is also studying about the shared infrastructure. Because especially for 26 and the 28 gigahertz, it's no way for every single operator to put 100-meter base station along the road. So it is a smart lamp post, it's a discussion in Hong Kong, can the smart lamp pole be the shared infrastructure? So this is another topic, back to the technology, back to the infrastructure. I didn't bring out at the beginning, but this needs to be agreed or discussed with the industry, with the government to support the industry to invest further, yes, in the most effective way.
Can I, so I think it's a great question. I think, so I'm going to go back to leverage on another comment that Renee made earlier and William talked about a little bit, and that is this, for the operator, it's almost like there are two paths the operators can take today. They can take a path to go from 4G to 5G and think of it as another way to transport and become a bigger pipe, or they can take on the OTT players and they can be a service provider and truly look at the data business in a new way to run their business. Chunghwa has developed a new company to look at data analytics specifically. A great example, if you don't have the skill set as an operator legacy company, start a new company, hire new people, look at it from a digital native kind of a company, not as a legacy telco. So it's almost as if I think the telcos answer this question differently. If you're thinking about the 4G to 5G as, oh my gosh, it's another infrastructure investment and just a bigger pipe, but are we going to get new subs? You can look at it that way if you want to be a transport company. Maybe one example was in the U.S. So Verizon in the U.S. has clearly made the decision they're going to be a pipe. They're going to be a transport. They're going to be the best darn transport, and they hope that Netflix runs all their video over their network. AT&T, on the other hand, is becoming a media company, right? They're becoming a content, data, and media company, completely different. Telstra in Australia has spun off two companies. One will be a pipe company, and one will be a service company. So there are different ways to do it, but there are two paths to take as an operator going forward. Clearly, the data that I showed says that the growing value is going to be on the data and the service, data analytics, services, OTT, platform play. This is the future. So when you look at the investment in 5G as it's just another infrastructure investment, how do I make my money back as a traditional ROI? It's difficult. If you look at it as a completely new business, and you spin off a business, you start a new business, you look at it differently. You look at it from an ROI, from a data and a services and an OTT perspective, and you look at it as a digital company perspective, which is very, very different. And then the investment becomes more clear, I think. So that's the way that IDC sees it, yeah.
Just to follow up on the comment in the more the same direction, I think that the first wave of digitization was very much seen as content versus access. And ultimately, these two are dependent. You cannot have one without the other. So there will always be a dependency. And I think that thinking of how to be smart about resolving that dependency through dedicated companies is a very, very good point. Ultimately, someone will have to carry the bits. And so that is still a question to answer. Those who are in the bits business, either as dedicated or as some kind of part of a conglomerate, there are very clear considerations to be made. Firstly, I think the passive infrastructure element to reusing existing passive investments is enormously important. Then, of course, the regulator has a role to play, because if you release mid-band spectrum, you can reduce your 4G site for 5G deployments. That will be a huge cost saver for the investment, for those who already have 4G investments in place. But thinking beyond conventional telecom networks, these smart infrastructure. So, for example, we have a partnership with Philips, where they put OLED lighting into street lights. So they go to municipalities, and there they also offer the possibility to include base stations and coverage in that light. So you can really build coverage around the roads where you put the lighting is. So it's a completely different business case there. And if you find a smart way of combining your existing footprint with these initiatives, you can again expand. So I think, again, there is room for innovation. And lastly, have you chosen some vendors like Ericsson? You have 5G ready infrastructures in 2015. You don't have to change those base stations. They are 5G ready. You need to install software, but the hardware stays.
Okay, good, thank you. So one very important question I want to ask during this panel. I know time is up. Okay, not yet. Okay, just this May, we the EU has passed, asked the global company to follow GDPR, and so actually before that GDPR, we have lots of discussion on data protection in Taiwan. And for data companies or telcos or cable companies, I think when they're facing data transformation, they have to face another important issue, which is data protection or privacy or anything about personal data. So there's actually two things parallel, but sometimes they conflict each other. Okay, so if you are an operator, which data protection is more important, or new business creation is more important? Which one will be the more important priority in your company? Data protection and the new business creation. No, I just felt that they conflict each other most of the time. Yes. So how do you balance between the two, or you choose just one of them? I protect my data and I don't do any new business, or I don't want data protection.
May I start?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if it's a wise move, but just for transparency disclosure, I have been involved with GDPR since 2013, okay. So a 5-year process. So I have followed the steps by the European Commission proposing the draft, putting into the European Parliament 4,000 amendments in the Parliament, and then a very long negotiation between the Council, the Parliament, and the Commission that ultimately yielded a result. And so I have many wounds from that process. I think that maybe one lesson to learn from the European experience on GDPR is not to ask to define the challenge in this zero-sum perspective. So innovation versus privacy. I think we need to find a way, how do we secure both interests? In a sense that the benefits of data processing in a society go much broader than just privacy or innovation. So, for sustainability point of view, I can give you a concrete example. The way GDPR is drafted, it means that when we develop positioning systems to protect mine workers in a mine, we might have problems of launching those services because of privacy. Then we ask those who are very privacy savvy, you choose life or privacy? And they never answer. So I think that it is important to elevate the question and to ask which human values or societal values do we want to enable with data processing? And there, the trade-off is much more complex than just saying profit versus lives or privacy. It will be about sustainability, it will be about healthcare. So a lot of research institutions had a number of challenges with the GDPR and the provisions there because of, for instance, one of the companies I was working with is cancer research. How do you make sure that GDPR doesn't become an inhibitor for more effective research on cancer? So I think this is a much bigger question than just profit versus privacy. It is innovation for humankind versus considering privacy, and how do we make the right balance there?
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Thomas. Okay, Renee just mentioned that a company should have access and have content. And it just happened to me that I think TBC has access and content, both, right? So do you have any thoughts on data protection and new business creation? Do you feel anything between these two things?
Well, I think the data privacy and new business opportunities coming out from getting more data from viewers can be conflicting. At the same time, it can be rewarding to both consumers and service providers. If we think of it, if the aggregators like ourselves, the content providers and channel providers knows what the market wants, then we produce better shows or we produce better content that the market has appetite for. In that sense, having that data will be critical to improve the competitiveness of the industry. And for Taiwan, I think if you look at the cultural export from music to video entertainment, that has a lot more value that we can create if we can bring those data back to bring the next level of innovation of creating new formats, right, of shows that Taiwan can export to the rest. So in that sense, I feel that the balance between privacy and commercial interest should, as what Renee have just said, should be elevated to the next level to see what overall foreign economy, what it means. We can obviously take up objectional data, for example, name, sex, age, for example, and generalize some of those. We can put some rules in place if certain information are sensitive, veering towards national security and so on. Some of those services or who can mine those data can be a third party or can be a government coordinated effort to make sure that the data doesn't land at the wrong hands. But without those data, I feel that we lose some level of competitiveness. In fact, if I just kind of go a bit beyond that, over the weekend I was back in Singapore because of some of the seminar that we have before the Formula One weekend, and have a chance to meet businesses that are invested by some bigger Singapore-related institutions, and also meet government people, not just in Singapore, but others. I feel that when we talk about IoT, 5G, and so on, the big theme, at least around Asia, was aging population, improving competitiveness, especially in the wake of US having more what we call offensive tariff against developing nations. But what it really means, if you think about it, is if you have a declining population and you are still trying to maintain the competitiveness to get the output without manipulating your currency, then you probably grow your population through robots. And if you think of IoT, then it really means that machines taking over human to create the GDP that you need. And hence, if you think of some of the strategic investment about data centers, about electronic communities, about automated social medias, if you look at recent typhoon, and I read sadly in Philippines, where people make distress calls, and obviously those calls are not filtered by the time the floods go downslope. Imagine if the residents would have given another 40 minutes to react so that they can evacuate, and the data can be shared upstream where the flood is happening. Back to the point to your coal miners, I think those are data that can then be used to help mankind and to create benefits to the economy. So I think going back to whether it's very, I would say, less sensitive things like, what content do you watch, or to bigger things about IoT, balancing between manpower and machines, in adding value to the economy. Really, the whole data privacy can be segmented and can be managed to meet all those needs, as long as the government play an active role in segregating what we think is sensitive to the level of national security and what we think to the extent that can be left to the market to harvest those data to create more value for the nation.
Okay, so the government should do many things for the 5G area. Okay, I think it's time for QA. I have many questions at hand. If you're writing Chinese, and then I read in Chinese, okay? Okay, I have a question, but I can't tell who are you going to ask. Okay, The first come from anonymous, okay, audience. 5G 对交通广告的改变有什么面向 can 5G improve traffic light, traffic, advertising? Okay. Advertising in traffic. I'm not quite sure. 交通广告是什么意思？是sign for traffic or traffic warning? Okay. Anyway, okay. Let me rephrase this question. Can 5G improve the traffic? I mean, on the road. Is that what you mean?
So can 5G improve traffic monitoring, congestion? That's the question, yeah? Yeah, so I guess there's no doubt that it can. If we go back to the conversation, we look at it from an outcome standpoint instead of a technology standpoint. Certainly, 5G can monitor traffic in real time, can reroute traffic in real time. Around an event, it can bring traffic in and out much more efficiently. From an autonomous vehicle standpoint, it does have the latency that autonomous vehicles need as well. That can also help in terms of traffic congestion. If you can manage the pool of autonomous vehicles, whether it's public transportation or a personal vehicle or carpooling, you can certainly manage your traffic in your city much better through autonomous vehicles than you can as it exists today. So 5G, again, gives you the latency, the quick throwing the ball at me and I can catch it kind of response time to be able to manage vehicles inside the city environment much more efficiently, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the second question is mainly China, about China. 中国大陆中国的 5G 建设起步可能早是世界之最。I'm not quite sure. China. I'm not quite sure about China. We have a China expert here. William, can I ask this question? It says China probably the earliest, one of the earliest countries in 5G. And then the second is South Korea and America, the US. So those three big countries, their deployment on 5G, would that be a threat to our national security? Okay, I'm not quite sure about this. Their security strategy. What would be the effects? Okay, maybe William can clarify this question for us. Is China the one of the earliest, most developed?
Okay, from GSMA, of course, we talk to all our operator members in South Korea, China, US, Japan. From our feedback, so as mentioned in Wendy's presentation, so US is very ambitious to be launched in 2018, and 2019 will be China and South Korea and the UAE. Okay, 2020 will be Japan, around 10 countries from Europe, and then South from Asia. So this is about our feedback from our operator. But of course, I will see that like South Korea, Japan, China is a government strong wish or strong support. I think this is one of the reasons. And the second reason is, as I mentioned, is about the ecosystem. Because you see that Japan, South Korea, China, they have a lot of ecosystem can be a user of 5G. For example, consumer electronic, terminal, handset, and then all this, what I mentioned about the innovation platform. So, and then again, what I can share, what they are doing. So for example, operator in South Korea, we heard about a lot, they do the 5G trial on the V2X, on the autonomous driving. And then back to China, if you go to website, you can search. Actually, they have make, the MIT have made the 5G application contest like a couple of months ago. So they have listed out around 50 different kind of the award. So this is more than what we heard about the V2X, autonomous driving, and a lot of is done more is a end user or enterprise basis application. So this is how they create the environment or create a 5G application to welcome 5G. Of course, a lot of 5G questions we still need to find out. about the 5G business model. It is different, how to make money, and then what is the also, I can also say that from GSMA, what I'm doing. Okay, we did a lot of research from the operator. What I'm doing or what GSMA doing is to have the research from different vertical. So now I'm contacting the power company, railway company, logistic company, airport authority to ask them what is their technology roadmap in terms of, for example, like an airport. Are you putting your cargo truck be autonomous driving? Are you putting the IoT, massive IoT on your cargo management? So for the railway company, for the power company, we want to understand how they're looking forward the technology support their need or the challenge. And then we find out what is the opportunity or what is the, I would say, the use case or even the technology gap. So this is what GSMA is also doing on the different market. So I say a lot of activity on this market, but still a lot of work we are still working on to make it happen.
Okay, China. Okay, then Randy, do you have any thoughts to add on?
On this question?
Yes. There's another half question about national security. I don't think this is a place for discuss. But if you want to add, you can join in.
Just one quick thought on what William said. I think the market, the way that 5G is being launched and being successful is different based on the country. So for example, in China and in Taiwan, smart city is being driven. A lot of successes in China and Taiwan around smart city, most of that driven by the government, as you can expect. State governments, actually more than the federal government. Typically at the state level, they're pushing smart city applications more in places like China and Taiwan. But I would say in the US, where the government is not involved in the market at all, what's happening is that connected cars is actually the fastest growing. So AT&T's fastest growing customer segment right now is cars. They're now managing over 30 million vehicles in the US that are now connected to the AT&T network, and that's their fastest growing. So it just depends on how involved or directly or indirectly the government is, what the market demands are. That actually is driving more about what's happening. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If I just may also add, if we look at our forecast and you measure the speed of transformation to 5G in terms of migration speed, our forecasts still today say that the US will, from which share of the total base is migrating to 5G, will have the highest share of 5G users by 2023. Of course, the numbers are different because the absolute size between US and China are different. So if you look at the volumes, it will give you another impression because in absolute terms, there are more people in China and it's a bigger country. But in terms of transformation speed, then our forecasts still conclude that US will be the fastest country.
Okay, then the next question. 5G 真的可以在台湾全面发展吗？我想这个问题应该是 yes 吧？是不是可以容许我回答？就在这里回答好了。而且必须要发展哈。那再接下来是各家系统都推出 OTT 服务，但看起来 OTT 国家中只有中华电信跟凯擘才具有足够实力。OK，TBC 在现场哈。那政府应该如何扶持角色，或应该如何重新看待供给需求面 ？OK，So this question talks about OTT TV, I guess. So it says that in Taiwan, only Chunghwa Telecom and cable has this kind of energy, or they have this kind of power to have to provide very good service in terms of OTT. So how the government should help, or I can't really tell. Okay, hard to translate. How the government should play a role in OTT TV or OTT services? May I ask Thomas?
I thought the question could go to Mr. Ma first.
Okay. 我还是用中文讲哦。事实上，中华电信啊，我们在 MOD 里面哦，它其实是属于 IPTV 这样的服务哦。 那在 OTT 这方面的服务呢，其实我们也有我们的算是合作的业者哦，像立 TV 他们或者凤梨电视呢，它利用 Internet 来提供 OTT 的这个服务。那当然呢，我们海外的这些 OTT 的 provider， 像 Netflix 对不对？哦，或 Fox， 对，它也都有经过中华电信这样 platform 来提供 OTT 的这个整个这样的服务。那在这个我脱稿演出一下，在中华电信里面呢，其实 MOD 啊，因为它被归属在 IPTV 啊，所以它的管理管束啊，其实是比 OTT 啊要更严格的哦。所以我只讲到这里啊，谢谢。
I see your point. No problem. Okay. Actually, I have to be more selective because we don't have much time here. Okay. I see a question here. Okay. 台湾 5G 发展目前并不急，似乎赶不上中国跟韩国。但是我想台湾的 5G 目前因为还没有这个频谱好，所以现在发展应该是我不晓得是不是叫零，好吧，就还没有开始啦。那如何掌握产业智慧连结的方向？哪些产业值得集中火力发展 ？Okay, this question should I think I should pass this question to CHT, right? Okay. Do you think 5G in terms of 5G? Okay. For Taiwan, we should what kind of industry should we invest more for 5G? From a telco's perspective.
事实上 ，5G 里面呢，它会有引进一些新的 technology 进来，比如我们现在常常讲 cloud computing， 到 5G 里面呢，就会有 edge computing 或者是 hybrid 的 computing 在一起以后呢，那很多新的服务啊就会进来。比如刚刚有一题在问到什么 5G 对交通有没有影响，我自己在猜啊。他想问的是不是以后跟自驾车那边会不会有一些连接以后呢，让整个交通这方面会比较更好的这个服务这样。那当然，因为 5G 里面呢，它的传输的速度更快，它的capacity更快呢，会让很多 IoT 的这些服务更 enable 就对比现在会更好。那其实，在刚刚的这两位专家的演说里面，就可以知道说，非常多的几乎IoT 里面它的服务是包山包海，所有的服务它都可以用到 IoT 所以说在第 5G 来了之后呢，我们相信会有很多的新的应用服务会出来，会让很多现在所还没有蓬勃发展的产业呢，会 enable 这样。所以我想，在整个 5G 里面呢，应该算是在 IoT 这里面的 connectivity 的这一步呢，再升级上去。但升级以后呢，那刚才讲其他infra也会跟着连上去。那甚至刚刚讲的 infrastructure 也会跟着上去这样。那这个上去之后呢，当然会有非常非常多的服务都会往上这样。
我想补充一下，接着大家讨论到，我觉得不管是5G 或者 IoT 或者刚才我们提到的 OTT， 其实当然从台湾的角度，很多的民众或者可能产业界的人都会关心说，我们追得上中国大陆啦、韩国啦等等。从我一个新加坡人的思维，可能我跟大家分享一下，尤其在这周末也跟其他的一些就是业界regional 业界的朋友在聊我觉得其实可能在这个业界里面这个第一或者是前面不是重点，最重要是深度 quality， 因为这个是一个 eternal race 所以真的不用太急我们新加坡人比较可能比较懒，所以我们常常讲 let's be a fast number two， 可是不要离那个第一的太远be a fast number two 所以在这部分我觉得 尤其是人口比较小的地方，或者这个竞争优势本来就不是在于市场的规模 ，be a number one 其实是 meaningless， 你顶多只是一个 lab 或者 showcase， 你没有真正 create 一个 economic value。最重要的就是回到你的 outcome 是什么，你的核心价值在这个产业链，这个 society 这个经济能为整个 ecosystem 整个创造新的 value。当大家都看到同一个方向的时候，不管是5G 或者 IoT， 甚至 OTT， 我常常讲的 OTT 没关系，谁就做没关系，因为现在反正盗版最赚钱，除非你要去做盗版。所以真的是不用抢头香，最重要的是，不管从政府、跟企业、跟民众团体、跟产官学，我们要把目标放在 quality， 到底我们的资源要怎么运用？
我在过去几年，不管在 NC 还在学校拜访过新加坡很多次，私人旅游或者是学术或者是官方拜访。Personally, I admire Singapore. I think they have a very good philosophy, of as a country in Asia. 他们我觉得说自己是 second place 我觉得那是很谦虚。可是我觉得这个是一个出于一个对自己的角色的一个很强烈的一个反省跟认知。那所以凡是不需要抢第一，但是只要有什么事情，他一定是做得很好。那不管是我参加过几次的会议，我都觉得非常 amazing 这个国家，就是也许中文不是讲的在台湾在华文世界中最好，英文可能也不会是最好，因为不可能跟西方人说的一样好，但是他的所有需要用的语言都说得上来，都能够沟通。我觉得这个是一个非常发展的非常健康的国家，在某些方面来看。那所以我可以理解 Thomas 在讲的这个状况，就是 you don't have to have the number one position， 但是你要知道你自己的角色是什么。那我觉得台湾我们有这么多非常 strong neighbors，China、Hong Kong、Singapore， 那我们在这里面角色是什么？我觉得这个是很有趣的。好，接下来有一个问题。
Can I also add something? Yeah. Okay. I think it's time for a Star Wars reference. Only a Sith thinks in absolutes. So I think this 0-1 discussion, whether stand still or be first out, I think it misses one important point I was trying to make, is that one thing is thinking about when do we launch nationwide spectrum auction and go full way ahead. There is, I think, a lot to do before that, and I think the issue of pilots, test licensing, limited opportunities for trial and error, I think this is an area when I think it's too late not to do nothing. So I think there should be ways of finding flexibility for limited test licenses where you can start doing these projects between industry, university, and the vendor. So I think is an area when I don't think any country should stay a day that has an ambition. But that is a different ambition from saying we have to have nationwide licensing in 2 months. And I think that should be discussed separately.
Okay, good. Thank you. I was reminded we are running out of time, and actually just one more question here. I think he deserves a chance to speak. Is Fang Xiuzhong here? Fang Xiuzhong 代表台湾通讯学会. Yeah, please. You have a question, right? What? Okay. Do you have a final thoughts for this panel, everyone? Just 1 or 2 sentences. No? Yeah, please.
So maybe I would just say for Taiwan, there are a couple of advantages for Taiwan in terms of maybe they're behind in spectrum, maybe they're behind on launching 5G, but there's great engagement between the government and the private sector in Taiwan that I can say. I think relative to other countries. I think particularly in smart city, there's an advantage in Taiwan for smart city. The third thing I'd say is on the device side, although it may not be the margin business for IoT going forward. There is an advantage also in Taiwan around the device piece of this and the volume that can be created in manufacturing for devices and sensors in Taiwan. There's a local advantage for that part of IoT as well.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Well, I think that using the presence of mid-sized manufacturing industries, I think this is the opportunity also in the digital industry transformation, and just to reinforce that point, that this is, I think, where Taiwan should not lose another minute to get those pilot test projects going. I think that's where the focus should be.
Can I add one last thing? And echoing to Nicole's starting point about regulation in Taiwan is a tough job. And frankly, I think it is really a tough job. But having said that, I feel that it's always good to re-examine what are the possibilities. I know today perhaps a network and content, which is vertical integration, 垂直整合, in Taiwan is probably untenable, given the need to protect democracy and freedom of speech and so on. But that probably need to be visited in the era of 5G, 8K, and so on, because the world is really changing. If we think about from the US context, if Facebook is going to acquire Hulu, maybe the US government will be the only one that is probably more interested. But if Facebook is going to acquire Netflix, and given the global net footprint of both Netflix and Facebook, I think many countries will be quite concerned about what that social impact would be. So if you don't allow for vertical integration, you are not helping the industry to find the best economies or the best way to move forward, especially to strengthen your local cultural or creativity so-called strength in the face of global competition. Because once this monster comes together, it's a scale that any single country will be very difficult to compete. And if you, whether it's the EU or the Asian or US, does not allow the merger, then, for example, Facebook and Netflix can still have a strategic initiative to come to the same outcome of aggregating eyeballs and driving content. Then what does that mean for the content and other related industries on other parts of the world? So I think while today there are many topics that are very sensitive if, putting the political lens on it, on the other hand, if you look at the longer term, what today's taboo is actually tomorrow's way towards a competitive, because these are the current rules that we are telling the industry that don't even think about it, because this is not possible from a regulatory point of view. And that doesn't allow the creativity of the industry to come and put their resource together, because they know that that is not going to be possible. But if you think about the survival of the economy, the talent, everything about the next generation, I think some of the rules need to be revisited in the face of global competition of a connected world.
Thank you. Many thanks to you, Thomas, for speaking up. I think that there's we have to rethink and re-examine our regulatory policy. We should allow more integration among different platforms. Okay. No. Okay. William?
Most of the time when we approaching to the end of the panel or end of the morning section, I always say, this is not the end. After this discussion, this is just the beginning. Yes. Just the beginning. After the discussion, how the industry can collaborate each other, how we sit down to identify our strength, how we identify what should be the next step. For example, I fully agree with Yu Zhong. Taiwan have a lot of strength in the industrial, in the semiconductor, in the computer, in the research and development. How we create another passion. I like Taiwan very much. How we create a passion again, not for the people here, for the industry, for the young people, to create another wave of the innovation. This is not about the 5G, not about the speed, not about the latency. this is about the innovation across industry. So I think this is just a beginning, not the end of the section.
Yeah, thank you for, yeah. Right, we have a lunch after this panel, so we have a chance to discuss more. Okay, so I want to thank you for your participation, and thanks to panelists for active discussion. Thank you, and let's have lunch.
谢谢 Thank you all our speakers and panelists. Please remain on the stage, and can we step forward, and we would like to have a group photo. 台上的贵宾是不是让我们呢一起起身往前，然后一起合影为今天的这一场精彩的关键对谈留下美好的画面。So please stand toward to the center of the stage and OK， 谢谢。好。接下来是我们的中午休息时间那在各位贵宾，您的识别证背后有餐券，请您持着餐券到我们走到后方呢兑换餐盒取用。那您可以选择在您现在的位置上用餐，或者是到我们外侧楼梯下楼到2楼202会议室用餐。用餐后呢，也请您协助我们将这个餐盒放到场外，我们会统一处理。当然，我们下午还有精彩的议程，我们会多方面的探讨数位应用驱动台湾的新未来。那当然，请大家把握休息时间，我们准时在1点30分回到座位。谢谢大家。